So I can't say why uh, tonight is the night, or today is when I first want to share a video dedicated to mental health, which I have talked about uh, a lot on this page or on this channel. I mean, obviously this channel is focused on music, but a lot of people comment on the stuff that I share on the mental health front that is helpful to them, which is incredibly rewarding. And I've been talking for ages about I'm going to tell my story, and um, I'm hopeful that it'll help others. And for a variety of reasons, it's been years, I think. I've had this channel for 3 years, I think. Two or 3 or 4 years. I don't know when I started it, honestly. Pre-pandemic, I think. Um, but I I've always held out or held up. Just haven't really gotten or taken sort of a forced or focused, sorry, focused look at my mental health story and sharing that with whomever's watching these. But I'm just going to sort of lead up. I had COVID last week. It's the third or fourth time I've had COVID. And I sort of knew it. Similar feelings. Like I went to a conference last week, and I think half the people on my team, there's like six of us at the conference, half of us got COVID. So I was spending a lot of time. I've spent a lot of time alone in the last week plus. And I've tried to fill, and as I get older, I'm 50 years old. I'm 50 years old. I try to fill my time with stuff that, I've had this run recently where I've been much more into film and books and going deeper into music, ambient music, and I've mentioned this movie Perfect Days, which is Wim Wenders' new film that I've now watched 4 times. It came out December of 2023. As you can see, this video is just going to be sort of a stream of consciousness as I enter into sharing more about my mental health story. The movie had a profound effect on me. If you haven't seen it, the premise is basically just a gentleman, I think he's probably in his early 60s, who lives in Tokyo, and he's single, no kids. I think he has a niece. And his profession is he cleans bathrooms, public bathrooms in Tokyo. And every day is sort of the same routine. He kind of gets up. Every time he walks out of his front door of his apartment, he looks up at the sky, and he grabs the same coffee and sort of like a coffee vending machine, drives to work, and he listens to great music. He listens to Lou Reed, Van Morrison, Patti Smith, Nina Simone. He reads William Faulkner at night. And the simplicity and the sort of elegance of his life just really hit me. And sort of and he, his nieces. I don't have any kids. I have nephews and nieces, some of whom I'm close to, some I'm not, and I have some regrets about not being close to some, and hopefully some of that can change over time. But just family stuff, But it's just a really moving film, and I think I'm just going to keep watching it. I think it's my favorite movie ever, or it's the movie that has impacted me the most. Just a tremendous, just the pacing of the movie and the visuals, and there's minimal dialogue, but it's just a gorgeous film. It says so much about sort of the beauty of life. And then I watched another film this past weekend. I think it was called 32 Sounds, 22 Sounds and 32 Sounds. It's basically just about sounds we hear, which I thought was fantastic. It's a documentary. Another film that really moved me. I'm reading like 4 books right now. I've sort of moved on from the sticking to one book thing that I used to do, and now if something grabs my attention, I'll just start reading it, and I'll place the other books in a pile, and I'll get back to them when I can get back to them. But to the sort of matter at hand, and this is just going to be like a quick intro. Well, it's not quick; it's already almost 6 minutes, but an intro into me sharing more. I've been watching. I also just watched a documentary. I think it was on Amazon Prime Video or something about healing or something. I don't know. It definitely sounds like a midlife crisis, and it probably is. I think I'm on like my 4th midlife crisis. But this one doesn't feel like one. It feels like I'm better understanding who I am as I age. Maybe that's what we all do. Maybe that's the goal. I don't know. I have a therapist that I've been seeing for about 2 years, virtually. She's in Los Angeles. I've seen her once in person when I went down there, but every other one is just, and we don't, it's probably once a month or so we meet. It varies, but right now I'm trying to do twice a month. And she has been working with me on what she calls like a values-driven life. So whether it's your friends, your interests, the things you support, your occupation, your employer, your, any area of your life, the way you act day in, day out with the people you cross at coffee shops, grocery stores, if you go to a concert. And she's really sort of enriched the way I view my own life and my surroundings, because I look at everything through, does this sort of meet who I am? So that I've had a lot of energy and brain power has been on sort of what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and thinking a lot about family. Most of my family's back east. Thinking about, spending more time there, seeing my nephew grow up. Some of my other nieces and nephews I haven't even met. So it's been a really good exercise going through this sort of values-driven, like the things that matter to me. Obviously, music being one, mental health, which I talk about all the time. I won't get into all that now. That's for a separate video. But I was just finishing up another documentary, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do the first video tonight. I probably won't post it for a few days. Maybe I'll post it tomorrow. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to send you what I'm doing right now. It is Sunday evening, July the 7th. And I had this thought when I was watching this documentary that was leaving sort of an impression on me that now's the time. Now's the time you're going to start sharing, like really sharing. And the reason that came to me is because I remembered, or somehow when I was watching this, what this documentary was, the one on healing, I was brought back to this second time I went through sort of deep depression. It's only happened to me, well, it's happened various times in my life, but it's happened twice where it was debilitating. In 1999, right around there, I think. I was out of work briefly, only like a week or 2 weeks. But I went to Lane's. He graduated law school and business school at the University of Cincinnati, and I went up to see him and was a rough trip for me. I was coming out of a breakup that was messy, still young and not really understanding relationships and love, and just, acted like a young kid, because I was 25 or 26 at the time. And I ended up going up to Chicago, where my father lived at the time, and I took a week or a week and a half off from work, and started my first sort of adult years, mental health work or journey or whatever you want to call it. So that was in 1999 or so, and then it happened again in 2014. I'm sure I've alluded to this one. I was out of work. I took 2 leave of absences. The first one was for, I think, 2 weeks. The second one was for 2 months. And I got better. And this was the longest, and sort of I don't know, you can't compare them, right? And I've had other bouts. We all do, right? We go through stuff. But I remember one day, so in 2014, I went to a day treatment facility here in Northern California. So I would go in, I think it was Monday to Thursday, 10 to 4, and it was like group therapy. And I'm going to do a video on that because it was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced in my life in so many ways. So I'll share that whole story at another time. But I remember one day, at the time, no music. My sleep was all over the place, either not sleeping at all or sleeping a ton. I had lost, I think, about 20 pounds, 15, 20 pounds. And again, I'll get into this in another video. There are a variety of reasons that led to this depressive episode that lasted, as I said, a few months. I think some of it's nature, some of it's nurture. Like, Lane and I both have had mental health issues. Lane different than mine, but we have both, had things in our lives from a mental health standpoint that have been challenges. I can't speak to Lane. I'm still sort of evasive on that whole story. You guys know he passed away in 2021. He and I had only spoken a few times in the previous 20 years. He was estranged from my family. In retrospect, I now think due to his mental illness, although he led a very rich and just a normal life. He was a lawyer in Chicago at Northwestern. Just very, very smart and loved music like me, loved baseball, loved dogs. We were very similar. But we hadn't spoken in a long, long time, and that was a very difficult thing for me. I missed him a lot. And then to lose him when he reached out to me 1 month before he died. We spoke for the first time in 20 years. Little did I know, right? But, sorry, back to where I was. So yeah, I'm gonna unload a little bit of this on you folks, because if I don't like the cliche, if this could help one person, but if it can, to people who have been commenting about really being appreciative of my mental health shares, this will have been worth it. The last point I'm going to make here, and then I'll save it for future videos. That one day when I was in this day treatment, I remember I went for lunch, and where I was attached to a hospital. It was like a wing of a hospital that they had, this day treatment program for people struggling with a variety of different mental illnesses. I met people there that I still talk to today. But one day I went to lunch, and it was a hospital cafeteria. And if you envision like the most depressing hospital cafeteria, this was it. Every day I went there, it only made me feel so much worse. Or made me feel, it met the moment. I was already feeling terrible. And again, I'll tell the whole story about my time at this facility in another video. But I remember sitting there one day, and I remember I bought a sandwich, took one bite, and that's all I could eat. And I was texting with a friend of mine who I used to work with, who now lives in Idaho, and we're still friends. And she was giving me support, and for some reason it cracked through a little bit. And I felt the love of a friendship or whatever. And I remember I was looking at my food, and every day was so long. And I just remember thinking, in a moment, I said, if I ever get out of this, and anybody who's been in deep depression knows that you don't think you're ever getting out of it. And I was certain I wasn't. I had never had depression like this, where everything was shut off. And again, I'm going to tell a lot of stories about what happened then, because I think it's getting to what I'm about to get to right now, which is only taking me almost 17 minutes to get to, which is when I was speaking to this friend of mine, I had some sort of realization, and I said, if I ever get out of this, I will tell my story. I will do whatever I can do to help people who are feeling like I was feeling at that exact moment. And for those few weeks before I started to get better. And it just felt like a normal life mission, like a writer has that he or she has to write a book, or a gymnast who just, it's who they are. I don't know. This felt like this is what you have to give back, and you're gonna do it. And now I'm getting close to doing it. 10 years later, decade later. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm still gonna talk about music and other stuff. Talk about life, talk about my brother. I'm gonna see my half-brother, who is my brother, in a few days, which would be great. But this is the opening to me telling my mental health story. I don't know if it's going to be consistent, but it's happening now. So I look forward to sharing with you folks. Feel free to comment, ask me questions. We'll still talk about rock and roll. I was very much into the summer music this past few days when I finally got out of COVID. I was listening to Born in the USA. Listen to The Strokes' Is This It? That's a good summer record. I can't remember what else. A lot of Dylan. I listened to 3 Dylan records all the way through last night. Blonde on Blonde, Another Side of Bob Dylan, and Bringing It All Back Home. And I listened to Bringing It All Back Home again today on a walk, so in a little bit of a Dylan phase. Thanks for stopping by, and I will be in touch soon. Talk more about music and more about my story. Take care.